This video is about MLA in-text citation. Also, that is referred to as parenthetical citation. So if you hear someone say parenthetical citation, they're referring to in-text citation. It's the exact same thing. Before I kind of get into specifically in-text citation, just a reminder that MLA in-text citation is just one component, one part of MLA. There is also the formatting of MLA, how you set up a document on the page. There is the signal phrases or introducing the sources in text. And then there is the in-text citation, which this video covers, followed by the works cited page. So again, this is just one of 4 parts of MLA. So here are some of the kind of the basic things to know about in-text citation before we get into the details. So every single sentence containing source material must include in-text citation. So it doesn't matter if it's being paraphrased, summarized, quoted, every single sentence. If it's 4 sentences, each one gets in-text citation. So you really have to make sure that you're consistently attributing every idea that came from a source back to that source and that author. In-text citation is always going to go at the end of the sentence, and it's always placed within parentheses. I'm going to show you some examples of this in a few minutes, but just remember that it's always at the end, always in parentheses. And then finally, the punctuation to end your sentence, so if it's a period, question mark, a quotation mark, whatever that ending sentence punctuation is, you want to make sure that that comes after the last parenthesis. It's going to feel a bit awkward, so just something to be aware of. So some common citations. Sources with page numbers. So anytime you have a page number, that should be what goes in the in-text citation. That's your first thing to look for. And so here's a couple of examples. One has the author's last name with the page number. The other is just the page number. Then there are sources with no page numbers. Then what you would do is you'd have to go to kind of the next piece of information. So if I had a quote or maybe a statistic that I'd taken from the U.S. Census Bureau website, then I could put U.S. Census Bureau italicized in my parentheses, and that would send someone to that website. So that is giving them the next piece of information that someone would need to find that source. If you have a source that's quoted in another source, so say I'm reading an article by Carson, and in that article, Carson quotes or pulls in information or ideas from several other people. I want to quote one of them other people. I don't want to quote Carson, I want to quote someone else. Then what I would do for the in-text citation is put QTD lowercase, the word in, and then Carson and the page number. So that's literally saying the information that came before was quoted in Carson's article on page 610. So here's some examples of what some of these look like. So this first example, it's sort of a traditional citation in that it's a quote. It has both the author's name, the title of the article, and the source had page numbers. So it would read something like, in the Obligation to Endure, Rachel Carson claims the history of life on Earth has been a history of interaction between living things and their surroundings. And then because surroundings is the last word of the quote, I put my quotation mark there. But then I have to have my parentheses with the page number, which is 607. And then my period to end that whole sentence comes after the last parenthesis. Another example, so this is where there was a source quoted in another source. So Jean Rostand explains, the obligation to endure gives us the right to know. But I didn't find that in Jean Rostand's article. I found it in Carson's article. So then the parenthesis, the parenthetical citation or in-text citation, would read quoted in Carson 611. So again, that's when you have a source that is quoted in another source that you want to use. A couple more examples. So sometimes there might not be page numbers. There also might not be the author, right? So then what do? So the title of the specific article or the page is what you would use to introduce the source as part of the signal phrase. So according to Facts and Statistics, that's the title of the specific page. A majority of people suffering do not receive treatment, even though these disorders can effectively be treated. And then the title of the website where that came from is ADAA, and so that's italicized in parentheses. So again, that's when you don't have the author, you don't have the page number. What do you go to next? Often it would be a title of a website. And then another example, this is again a website. In top 10 secrets of college success, Lynn Jacobs and Jeremy Hyman note that students should take take each test at least 3 times. Take each test 3 times, if I can read that correct. And that was from the U.S. News website. So then I have the title U.S. News in my in-text citation, and it is italicized again. So again, just a couple different examples there. Real quick before I go over some of the notes about marking the titles, just note that all of those examples I showed had both the signal phrase, so how to integrate and introduce the source, along with in-text citation at the end. Now, some notes about marking source titles. You'll notice that I kept referring to titles being italicized. You probably noticed in some of the examples that there was titles with quotation marks around them. So any source titles in MLA need to be marked, and that includes whether it's in the in-text citation within a signal phrase or on the works cited page. So all of those places you mark the titles of sources. And any source that is like a complete long source, you're going to mark with italics. So some examples of complete long sources. A thing like an entire book. So maybe there's a novel that I'm citing from. Or a website title. That's an entire title. Or maybe there's a movie title. I use the whole title. Now, the opposite is if you're sorting sources with short sources or parts of a larger source. So an article title would be an example. A specific title of a single television show that's part of a larger series, or a poem part of a larger book, or a scene that is part of a larger episode. So any of these sources, and this is the most common type of source that you often are going to be using, because you mainly are going to be using articles for college and research, those all get marked with quotations. So if you just remember that like it's either going to be italics or quotation marks, and then just the italics is always connected to longer sources, quotation marks is always connected to sort of shorter sources or sources that are part of some bigger complete piece. And then some final reminders. Make sure to integrate and cite all source material, so that's including quotes, paraphrases, and summaries. So it doesn't matter if it's the direct wording or if you're rephrasing it, you have to make sure that you're citing everything. Every sentence containing source material needs that citation. Again, doesn't matter if it's quoted or in your own words. And then in-text citation, so whatever you do have in text, must match up to the full citation on the works cited page. And again, works cited pages will be covered in a separate video. So that is all I have for in-text citation. Hope this gives you some idea about how to set it up. And many writers' handbooks have additional types of citation, as well as you can look up other types of in-text citation for MLA simply by Googling and looking at some of the different websites online. Thank you.